It's time for Type 40, your Doctor Who podcast from the Spacebook for the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, designated driver, lifelong fan, and your resident mouth runner aboard this old girl. And Type 40's the free-speaking, big-thinking show for everyone. And that goes whatever decade or century you started watching, reading, or listening along to those ongoing adventures of our hero, the Time Lord, Doctor Who. We talk about it all on this show. We review and we preview what we will, and there could even be a few laughs along the way. So come and step into our TARDIS and share this journey together here with us on Type 40. Yes, here we are again. Another trip in the Type 40. And of course, the 60th anniversary is so close, everybody, that we can smell it, can't we? But before we get there, we've got one last hurdle, one last parade of mediocrity, courtesy of the former showrunner Chris Chibnall, to jump. Or have we? More on that later on. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Not before I bring on the panel for this chilled out round of shameless, casual, little bit lukewarm speculation. Firstly, I'm delighted to welcome back one more time for yet another peer into the perilous mind of Chris Chibnall. She was my Flux buddy all the way through Series 13, but she's back again. We've reviewed most of those shows together. It's Charlotte Shields back on Type 40.
Hello, I know I'm still coming back after all those episodes.
Yes, fiver every now and again does the trick.
Helps.
So we're back, a bit more recharged. We've got Legend of the Sea Devils out of the way. We've dropped that podcast now. On to brighter times. Things can only get better, can't they?
I think yes. I think we've sort of said before, there's a very base level, and it'd be nice just to even raise a bit above that, hopefully. We'll see how far we've rustled, but hopefully it's just at least a little bit above it.
We've got 90 more minutes worth of whatever to come before we get to whatever Russell's got coming. It must be a mixture of feelings for you, Charlotte, because, we've been here in the trenches, haven't we, throughout this entire 3-season stretch. It feels like we've done hard time and space here as Doctor Who fans. But even though we know so little of what's to come afterwards, that's kind of exciting too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, and like Jodie's era was the era that got me on YouTube, talking and meeting a lot of really good friends on Type 40 and across sort of social media. So it's sort of been that side which has been lovely, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm always going to treasure that. But then sort of the flip side of that is I've had to watch Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker. So it's been two halves very much for me.
What's given away with one hand is taken away with the other. Well, let's round out the voices on this show. Now, it's his first time on the podcast in a couple of months. We had to get him on for this because this is going to be quite a big deal for him. This is the screenwriter, director, and all-round creative force. Presently, he's got a film on Netflix, believe it or not. Let's bring him in. Ian David Diaz back on Type 40. Hello, mate.
Yes, I'm back.
You're back.
Yeah.
And to talk about bang up-to-date Doctor Who as well. It's been quite a long time, hasn't it?
Well, not to talk about not the Jodie Doctor, no. But I'm here.
Good stuff. And that's not it. We've got one more voice to add. Now, if you're a listener to our Type 40 live stream shows that we put out on the home feed page and over on the Spacebook YouTube channel, you'd have seen her and heard her on those shows only too well in various states of decorum. But she's here on the podcast for the very first time. I'm delighted to welcome the geeky and the rambly Miss Shaw from Geek Rambles. Hello.
Hello. Hello. I'll be on my best behaviour tonight. Kind of.
It's convinced?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
So, over the last few months over on Type 40 Live, we've got to know you pretty well. But I think people assume, don't they, that because of your hairstyle, that you're a big Jodie Whittaker fan. You've said that to me.
It's more when people like Ian, hang on, it's mirrored for me. Ian decides to send me photos of Jodie Whittaker and saying, I've just found a photo of you. So
well, I generally thought it was you.
So I'm not entirely sure. I think she stole my hairstyle rather than the other way around. So I like to think of it that way.
Well,
That's
if you've
right,
got
exactly.
Jodie's hairstyle, I've got Shooty's hairstyle, haven't I?
You
Haven't
have.
I? So
I know.
yeah, so there you go. So
There's a cosplay idea for you already.
yeah, well,
Okay. I know. I say this all the time. David Tennant stole my haircut. But since this is your first time here on the podcast show, bring us up to speed a little, because obviously it's just a few days ago as of recording. It was the 4th anniversary of the debut of Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor on screen. So tell us a little bit about what the last 4 years has been like for you. Were you a Doctor Who fan before Jodie? And what have you made generally of the 3 and a bit seasons that we've had with her in the title role and Chris Chibnall running the show?
Yeah, so I was a fan from the reboot because of my granddad. So I've been watching it from Eccleston through to Jodie, and I have sat through Jodie's every single episode. No, do you know what? I'm very, very mixed. I'm a lot more forgiving than you guys. I know that much already. But I'm I'm happy to see that this is going to change now. I'm ready for this bit to be over, and then to move on to pastures new. I think that's probably the best way that I can put it in the way that I want to.
It's tested a lot of patiences, this era, of even the most dedicated and the most generous of souls, I feel.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, throughout this, because there's been so many breaks as well, I've gone into Classic Who, which has changed my perception of Doctor Who entirely, with how much how different it is, but how I think someone else said it a long time ago that it is the same character, and you have to keep that same character or else it will never work. Luckily, it has up into this point, and I've never had my Jodie Doctor moment. I think that's what I'm missing so much from this era, is that I've not had that, and I've had it with every single Doctor. So that's my only problem. I think it's just not, you know, when you have that, when Matt Smith walks through David Tennant's picture in the 11th hour, and he goes, "I'm the Doctor." You're like, yes, you absolutely are. Peter Capaldi took me a few episodes, but he made that same sort of little speech, and I was like, yes, I can see
there's
it.
There's a moment where the actor and the suit that they're wearing becomes a second skin, and sometimes it can be a physical moment in the like the one that you just described, or sometimes it can be a line of dialogue, can't it, Charlotte? And Jodie has never had that, has she, in all this time?
No, I think, if I am being kind, there's been moments where I've seen a glimmer of a possible, maybe you're just about to get there, but I'm the same as Shah. I've not had a Jodie Doctor moment, and I think she's really suffered from having a muddled writing style that her Doctor flips so easily, and I honestly think the actress has just struggled. I think it's been a massive miscast, and I think Jodie's just not the actress for this role at all. So you've got lots of factors sort of making her Doctor not sort of stick. I think with me, Sean, quite a lot of people in the fandom, if they're being honest, really.
I think that's true.
I think that sums it up really, really well. There were glimmers of it for me in Series 11 where I thought maybe, I don't think it started very well, but there were glimmers, because I did kind of believe in her, but I think the series has sort of been overshadowed by other things, by Chris Chibnall's own lack of real grasp of the character, ability as a writer. It's really exposed how wanting he is in that respect. His reluctance to really run a world-class show hasn't helped, and I think that the noise and the nonsense surrounding the show, the political nonsense from the show itself and the fan base, and even the BBC, the people making it, has drowned out the noise that should be coming from within the culture of the show itself that makes you want to see it. So it's been a very strange time to be a follower of this show. They've got 90 minutes to pull it back around and to leave the screen with some, not just dignity, but give us a sense that it was all going somewhere, and that it's been worthwhile in some respects. So this is coming off the back of 2 full seasons that we got back in 2018 and 2020, and then that half season that we had in 2021, and then a couple of specials that we've been served lately. There was the slightly I don't know, the mediocre runaround that was Eve of the Daleks. It wasn't without its merits, but generally quite a disappointment. And then the absolutely abysmal Legend of the Sea Devils that came at Easter, which has to be the very bottom of the barrel for me. I don't think I've ever seen the series looking so tawdry, so tired, and so looking like it needed to be left at the bottom of the ocean. But we do have this one last special to come, and we have details of it at last, and a full trailer to look at too. So that's what we're going to be doing on this show. The four of us, we're going to get together. We're going to have a look through the trailer, some of the imagery, some of the things that were said, some of the faces, mostly old faces. I was going to say old and new, but I think they are mostly old faces. And we're going to speculate about what's to come in that last special, as well as another few little surprises, what's being said out there in the fan base, in the community, and by Doctor Who luminaries as we head towards the power of the Doctor. I still think this is a terrible title. I really do. I think it's derivative. I think it's lazy, and it just seems like just like Kyle Wagner said on the last show there, Charlotte, it seems like Chris Chibnall was there spinning the wheel with a load of random words on one and words like Doctor, Dalek, Cyberman on the other. I really don't know.
He's like the worst scramble player in the world. He just has like a couple of words he likes, and he just twists them around a bit.
It is absolutely baffling how he manages it, but we're going to see if we can get some hints about where it's all going to end up before we finally wave that man goodbye. But in the meantime, if you'd like to do some real-time traveling of your own, each and every edition of this show, past, present, and future, is just a tap or two away on the device of your choice if you know where to look. There's well over 100 now great conversations, reviews, previews, interviews, geek outs, and deep dives with all our regulars and some pretty awesome guests. There's something for every fan at type40.podbean.com. There'll be more about all of that a little later on, as well as a couple of minutes where we will make contact with the matrix of all knowledge that we call the Fandom Podcast Network. So yeah, Kev, he'll be along with another tantalizing transmission from over there later. Okay, that's the sensible part. Was that sensible? Was that sensible? Maybe. I don't know. Let's be honest.
Who knows
all breaks. Well, exactly. All the breaks and all the bets are off as we look at another Chibnall extravaganza, the forthcoming feature-length special, The Power of the Doctor. Ian can't wait to get stuck here. Okay, so yes, here we are. This is the big month. If you're the British Broadcasting Corporation, it's 100 years old, and there's a whole season of special events and programming across both TV and radio about to begin. Now, traditionally, Doctor Who has been one of their biggest brands until quite recently being a major event TV series. It even finally broke the American market thanks to that deal with Netflix well over 10 years ago now. Whatever I think, or we think, of the BBC itself in 2022, I think there are a few fans that wouldn't admit to still having some sort of sense of gratitude, I think, and the last vestiges of affection for the brand of the BBC, simply because of the fact that they brought us Doctor Who. They brought us this wonderful series in the first place. Now, we're on the brink of a major anniversary year for Doctor Who itself. We're all poised and waiting to see exactly how that's going to go. But the thing that I'm finding is that it's all so much under wraps. There's a slight feeling that this celebration that we're about to hit now is just a warm-up, really. It's almost like or an opening act or a B movie or the cartoon you'd get before the main feature of something much, much bigger. I mean, I suppose you could say that if there's something that's worth celebrating, the fact that the BBC Centenary Special of Doctor Who will at last bring the critically and commercially disastrous 13th Doctor's era to a close. The BBC held off promoting The Power of the Doctor for as long as they could. In fact, I think, just up until 2 weeks, slightly more than 2 weeks before broadcast. So we're now here and we can share our thoughts on what they have served us and pick apart this minute-long trailer with all its various treasures and close in on that date where we will finally wave bye-bye to the world's worst showrunner, Mr. Chris Chibnall. Ian, I'm really surprised, though, most of all, I think, to see you back here, because you haven't watched Doctor Who for some time now, have you? What was the last episode of it you actually saw?
I saw the first season, which I thought was abysmal, and I saw the one with Captain Jack when he came back, and I only saw 10 minutes of that, and I switched it off, as you know, because we almost did a show about that. And that was the last time I saw the Jodie Doctor on the BBC, basically. So yeah. I'm just.
You're going to watch this final one. What's changed your mind? What's got your attention?
It's not. It's yeah. Well, one of my friends kind of work at the BBC, kind of seen it. She says it's okay, so I'm gonna but it's the last one, so I watched the last one, and then we can probably say goodbye to her, and that'll be that, basically. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm watching it. Also, I need something to talk about anyway at luncheons, dinners and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Talk about how bad it was, blah blah blah. So so yeah. So I'll watch the last episode, but as I said, I'm not really hoping for anything. But I mean, I saw the trailer and I thought. So I think everybody's thinking that, aren't they, when they see the trailer? I think the best line in the trailer is, "We're going to erase you." That's the line that the master uses, isn't he? And I'm like, yes, eraser.
Most exciting. Most exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, the place that I'm at with this, I've gone, Charlotte, from being somebody who couldn't wait. Those gaps in between seasons, all the way through, even up to the Capaldi era, were agonizing for me. Months and sometimes a year without an episode of Doctor Who, between Christmas specials or something. I've gone from being that guy to somebody who I got to the point where I was dreading a new season starting or a new special appearing. And it goes the same with this. I mean, I've been so focused on what's to come next year. We don't know very much about that either, but it's still considerably more exciting than this. So I'm really trying to zhuzh myself up for it. And in some ways, I do feel that the outgoing, they're gone. That the former production team are trying to bring people like me back to the party. But where do you sit with it at the moment? You're just sort of hanging on for dear life.
I'm just watching it just because it's Doctor Who at this point. If I'm being perfectly honest, there's no attachment to this era. There's no love for this era. I think there's a bit of me that wants to watch, especially the last one, for closure. I think I need to almost see Jodie go to have that sort of moment to go, right, it's done now, and I've seen it, and she's burst into flames. So it's pure, it's Doctor Who, and I'm just watching it also so I can have a proper opinion, a proper informed opinion about it, and not just parrot what I hear other people say. So I can actually say, no, I've watched it, and this was my proper reaction to it.
Yeah.
So there's no affection. Like I said, there's no love at all. And that is sad that it is getting to this point that a Doctor's going, and I should be feeling something. But for the actual Doctor,
is it kind of
happiness? That's what
is it as if you've eaten almost an entire Toblerone? You've got 2 chunks left, and you think, oh well. You see at the bottom of the box, and you think, I might as well eat it now. I'm here.
Yeah, it's like it's like on Christmas, like a couple of days after Christmas Day, when you've got the last bits of chocolate in your selection box, and you're like, I probably shouldn't, but I'll finish that off.
I mean, the strangest thing that I find is that I feel, Char, that we are, as fans, we've been left to... It's one thing, I think, as Doctor Who fans, we've traditionally been the ones who've rounded up our friends and family and got them excited for this show. We haven't necessarily needed to do it for ourselves before, but here, because the production teams have been the ones that have excited us. But in this era, the production team they're quite happy. They don't seem to give a monkeys whether we're excited about it or not. There's been no promotion. And this hasn't just been something with this special. This has been virtually the entire time. We've been left to our own devices to stir in it and to get ourselves excited almost on cue. It's a weird thing in the 21st century, the age of the internet and information technology and intellectual property. It seems so old-fashioned, doesn't it?
Almost, but I mean, I was thinking about back to other trailers while you were chatting, and I remember so distinctly the 50th anniversary trailer and thinking how phenomenal that was. And even still, I'll go back and watch that because I just love it so much, and it really gets me hyped. And so yeah, you're quite right. I mean, I'm actually quite happy about it because it means that fans can talk to each other. We can all share what we think. It's a wonderful thing. But of course, then comes the sort of how bothered are the production team, because they're getting free marketing, but only to people that are already invested. And that's the issue I have, is that you're only catering to those people that already know what's going on, that want a trailer yesterday, and that, you know, want to have want to just see something to have something. But the average folk, like my mum and dad, for example, wouldn't have a clue. They didn't even know. I went to here we go. She's going. I went to my parents about 3-4 days ago, and I said, oh, did you know that Catherine Tate and David Tennant are you going to be watching it? I'm really excited. And they went, David Tennant and Catherine Tate are returning? And it just shows that the average person out there that might like it here and there have no idea actually what's going on. So yeah, the internet's great and you find out a lot, but only because you're on those social channels. If you're not, you're left out. And that's a problem, because obviously we want people to be, we love this show. We want people to enjoy it and come back. And that's not going to happen if we don't get that sort of level of excitement.
And right now, Shah, we're in a position we've never really been in before, where effectively this show has, to the outside world, somehow got 3 leads: Shooty Gatwood, David Tennant, and Jodie Whittaker. To them, if they're keeping an eye on sort of the tabloids where there's an article every now and again. And so there's a confusion out there on the odd occasion where people do talk to you about Doctor Who. People are not sure who's coming after what and when, or what's going on, when the series is even on anymore. Do the BBC still have it? Because I've heard it might be going to Disney Plus. You get all kinds of things. And so when Chris Chibnall hasn't said a peep about Doctor Who now for months, since that famous speech about, I'm done with Doctor Who, my kids need my help to pass their A-levels. You know, those results would have come about July, Chris. I don't know what he's been doing since, but yeah, we've all been there. Don't worry, I'm sure they got through absolutely fine. We had this quote here. From the former and future showrunner of Doctor Who, Russell T Davies, who's been doing sterling work to try and pick up the slack. And he said a few months ago, talking about this upcoming special, he says it's like a 10-year-old's fantasy version of Doctor Who, but with muscle and punch and light and colour. Now, Russell he speaks very well. He uses words well, and he's a big old geek, and he knows this culture. But if that's the best that a wordsmith like Russell T Davies can do, I'm thinking this must be one hell of a stinker.
Is that an insult or is that a compliment?
I don't know.
I think it's Russell, like Dan said. He's trying to be very polite, and he's trying to do a favour to his mate Chris, but you can only say so much. Yeah, so he can only say so much if it's not of good quality.
Yeah, the beginning bit definitely sounds like an insult, but the other section, the light and the thing, sounds like a compliment. So it's just weird. It's a weird thing to say.
It could be the sort of childlike wonder you sometimes get with Doctor Who, though. You can interpret that in different ways. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, you what? But it could be like a 10-year-old's fantasy version where you remember when you're young and you see it and it's also magical. That's how it could be.
But the thing is, though, the first impression I got when I read that wasn't that.
No, me too.
Is this an insult? That's what I'm saying. So if it pretty much sounds like a bit of an insult, but tracking back and saying, no, maybe you should watch it, when he's talking about the colour and the light and all that.
But then he spoke since then, hasn't he, and said how wonderful it is, which of course he has to, because you're not going to,
It's had time to think about it now. I think he was put on the spot then. I better say something. I can't say that it's awful.
It's rubbish. I need my audience back when I come back.
Yeah.
He said it was wonderful, but then again, we don't know how much influence the guy had in this one, so who knows?
Yeah.
Look
Well,
at
we
his
have
face.
we have every reason to believe. I mean, I won't say this hasn't come from sources that I would absolutely stand by, because we have had some people come to Type 40 with information. This has come from somewhere else, which I'm not sure about, but I have it on a pretty good authority that Russell T Davies has been involved in this last special, even if it is just quite late in the day, even if it is just going over it and tightening up the edit, Charlotte, and making sure that it's compelling on some level, that we're not falling asleep watching it, which has been a problem for me with multiple Chibnall episodes.
Oh yeah, but Russell was the first person who told us the runtime. He was the first person who talked about seeing the final edit.
Yes.
So to me, that is a major clue that he might have a bit more involved than normal. If he's the one who could tell us, oh, it's 90 minutes and it's like, I've seen the final edit. And I'm like, as soon as he said that, my ears pricked up. I was like,
we're still guessing though, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're still
oh yeah, we're
guessing.
guessing.
Yeah.
But it's
just
interesting
so
that
weird,
he's got
though.
that he saw it though.
Yeah, that we actually got that information from him. I mean, I have my own personal ideas of why Chibnall's not been involved, and I think that I might be right on them as well, which is kind of
Fair
not always
guess.
the case. But the fact that he's done all this legwork and I've dropped everything, sorry. That he's done all of this and has picked up, like you say, Dan, the slack that Chibnall's left, just says everything to me. I don't think you can be that involved without being involved, if you know what I mean.
It's been agonising for the people out there. There are 3 or 4 people that have been really excited about the Jodie Whittaker run, and they're all very active on Twitter. So it's been agonising for them over the last few months. But broadcast date was confirmed a few short days ago as of time of recording, and long after most of us in the fandom had worked it out for ourselves. The 13th Doctor's era does close out with The Power of the Doctor, written by Chris Chibnall, and that airs on Sunday the 23rd of October 2022. We've got the date, but we still haven't got the time. So it is literally piece by piece by piece. We're getting
about 8 or something, isn't it? 8 o'clock or something like that, or 7.
It's that,
Oh, is it earlier?
Yeah.
Is it like
Chibnall era's been early?
Oh, really? So 1 o'clock in the morning then? It's not actually going to be shown.
Given that this is 90 minutes, I think it's anybody's guess where this could come. I mean, I would think that if they were sensible, they'd put it on at 7, have it finish at 8:30. If they were sensible, but this is the BBC.
Just in time for a Type 40 broadcast, right?
That would be ideal. Yeah, in fact, if they put it on a little earlier, that'd be absolutely wonderful. Yes, we've got a little blurb as well. We've got a synopsis, and it says, having faced many perilous journeys, battling some of the most feared monsters throughout space and time, it's the final installment for the 13th Doctor, this epic blockbuster special. We'll see the Doctor fight evil across the galaxy one last time, but just who will she come up against in her final battle before the Doctor regenerates once more? That's, I mean, I think you'd have to be 6 years old to be remotely stimulated by that. It says so much, says absolutely nothing. And I think the same goes for the promotional artwork that we've had so far for this. It's much of a muchness, really sort of by numbers work. It's beautifully finished off, but it's not particularly bold in any way. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. It's doing the minimum, which is, I think, is not the best of signs. Now, the trailer dropped as well shortly afterwards. I got to admit, I was out. I was doing other things, so I couldn't watch it anyway. Who did you rush to the internet, Charlotte, to see this? Because that's what we used to do back in the day. That's what I used to do. If a trailer dropped, I'd be there, like sort of waiting with my finger on the play button. Did anybody were you doing that?
No, I just saw it pop up on one of my mates on Messenger saying trailers dropped if you want to watch it.
Yeah, same here.
Like in that sort of method, it was just like.
But do you remember when Chris Eccleston became the Doctor and that trailer was everywhere? I remember seeing it and feeling so excited about Doctor Who coming back.
Oh,
the one with the big fireball. I thought that was amazing. Yeah, it was everywhere.
I can remember Matt's first one when
exactly,
Amy and him were on the hill. and it
Yeah.
exploded, and you saw all
Yeah.
the enemies,
Wonderful.
and that was wonderful. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I used to do that, but
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, it's dropped. I'll watch it just so it's probably going to be a minute, not much out my time. I'll just watch it.
I only watched it. Was it yesterday? So and how long's it been out? It's been out for a week?
3 or 4 days at this point. Yeah,
Oh, right. So I only watched it yesterday.
It dropped on the Saturday afternoon, didn't it, Shah?
I honestly couldn't. I can't remember. All I know is that
And we're fans.
We're all
I know, it's so
on the edge of
frustrating.
our seats here. We're on the brink. I think that, we should remind ourselves. I've seen this now. I've
Yeah.
watched it 3 times. Once the day
I watched it
after
3
it dropped, and twice today. But clearly, I think we need to have our memories jogged about what was in it and whatever else. So yeah, let's have a think back across the trailer itself and see if we can remember the odd bit and piece. I mean, yeah, I talked earlier on about the title. I know you may say, what's in a name? It's a standard Doctor Who thing. But really, I think if Chris Chibnall, if his run hadn't have been already full of so much mediocrity and repetition, Charlotte, I'd probably have received this a lot better. It speaks of a man with one hand on the wheel.
Yeah, and it's also, we've had now a lot in the modern run. Like, he's not
He's
the only
just
one
copying.
guilty of this, but
He's
it's
just
because we've
copying
had.
what's gone in the past. That's
Yeah,
what
he's copying Moffat with the Day of the Doctor, Night
And
of the Doctor.
And paintings that be stolen. That's like from the 50th.
Oh yeah, but this is such a Chibnall thing, though, isn't it? He's done all this sort of stuff. Even lines when Jack returned. I appreciate you didn't see it, Ian, but the first thing he says to Jodie Whittaker is, she says to him, "Oh, have you had work done?" He goes, "You can talk," and it's like we literally know that's. It's not even like he wrote it. If RTD did that, I'd be like, "Oh, that's quite funny. You've thrown back to your own thing," but you didn't even write that. So that's the
it's
issue
terrible,
with
isn't
it.
it?
It's a Chibnall thing. But anyway, I'll stop talking now.
It is the strangest thing to be seeing the trailer for something that is new and feeling like you've seen it all before. I mean, I'll say this for the Chibnall era, Shah. I think that some of the special effects have been absolutely beautiful, and this has been the same throughout the entire run. And some of them have been absolutely awful. And I don't know whether it's because they've been pushing an envelope, or whether they've run out of money. Again, I try to be generous as regards those things. And I like things to be colourful and quite brash. That's what I liked about the Russell T Davies era, that it was comic booky. But some of the special effects in this trailer do look a touch unfinished, I think.
No, I disagree.
Sorry,
I disagree. I think the effects look. That's probably the best thing about this trailer. The effects look really good. They look good. There's nothing wrong with the effects.
I wasn't massive on that bullet train thing. I know it's all coming. Sorry,
that's all right.
You're right. I agree with you, Dan. The cinematography in this whole era, I think, has been beautiful. Really, really well shot.
Yeah,
and that is one thing that I won't. Like, if someone challenged me on it, I couldn't say that they were wrong or right. I mean,
the volcano in the beginning looks quite good.
The thing that I want to draw your attention to really as well is the momentum of this. Obviously, trailers are supposed to make us want to watch something, aren't they? They're supposed to heighten our expectations and to see and to place people that we should like, we should have investment in, particularly after 4 years on screen, to place them in peril, and then to sort of to turn the table over, really, and then to raise the stakes to such an extent that we wonder how the hell they're going to get out of it. I mean, we see Mandy Gill returning as Yaz, the longest running Doctor Who companion now ever, I believe. So she's back alongside Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. We see them running across the planet's surface, which I think the sight of Jodie Whittaker running is far less convincing than any of the special effects that are on screen, such as this giant orange mushroom planet, which to me, this isn't great. This looks like something out of a console game, the way it's been finished. But I like the idea. I don't think we've seen enough elaborate alien worlds on Doctor Who and under any of the showrunners.
It doesn't look that bad. It looks like it's TV CGI, and it's it's the same kind of TV CGI Marvel does. Well, Marvel does it slightly better, but the effects. The effects look okay in this. As I said, it's what I expect for today's level of sci-fi from a British company. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think so. I think
Just
you're
add a
being
bit of
slightly harsh, Dan. Slightly
bit of
harsh.
colour.
Yeah, I mean, it is
And a bit of mood.
Let's be fair.
I'm quite. In the past, I've been a big fan of Sacha Dhawan.
Yeah.
As an actor, generally,
But Jesus, there.
I wanted him to be cast as the Doctor a few years ago.
He would have made great.
He's
Doctor.
back.
He would.
He's back playing the Master in this. This is his fourth appearance, I suppose, if you count the Spyfall thing as two parts. Dressed as, I think they're playing off Rasputin here, Charlotte. That's what they're going for. These visual cues, aren't they? But I think if the tone of the character and the things he's saying in this trailer are anything to go by, the Master has degenerated yet again in this to an even more of a one-note character. What are you picking up about Sasha's performance?
Oh, Sasha's Master is one of the biggest frustrations of this era, and there's a lot of them with me, but Sasha's one of them, because in Spyfall Part 1, I loved his performance. It was downcast. You could tell there was something not quite right there, but like I said, it was downcast, it was emotional, it was different. But then as soon as he turned into the Master and we got that reveal, he became a bad John Sim Master to me. We got the same silly voices, we got the over-the-topness, we got the cartooniness. And in The Timeless Child, that had been dialed up already once. And then in this trailer, if he was cartoony before, he was even more cartoony for me. And that's just I think that's gonna really get on my nerves, because I agree. I've seen Sasha in other stuff. He can do a really good Master, I think. If he wasn't being told, I feel, you've got to be crazy. You've got to be wacky.
Again, Chibnall hasn't got an original bone in his body. He's copying what went before. Everything about Chibnall's era is about him copying the Moff and RT. And that's exactly what he did. He didn't have any kind of imagination to bring a new variation of the Master to life. He just literally just copied Sim's character, which I really hate, by the way. But there you go.
I don't like him either.
It's even more frustrating because I've recently been watching Peter Capaldi stuff again. And I've been watching Missy again after years of not watching her. And it was so refreshing to see Missy, because she was different. She was still obviously that unhinged, but it was more calculating unhinged. It was more Predator. Like you legitimately would like, God, I wouldn't want to get in an argument with her. And it's like with Sasha, it's just, I'm not scared of him. And I should be scared of the Master. I just almost laugh at him now.
He spends all his time puffing out his chest and sort of rolling his eyes. You don't get the impression there's anything going on under the surface. It's a great shame with an actor as capable as Sacha Dhawan. I think that The Timeless Children was a real low point for the character throughout its 50-year history, to be reduced to just narrating a story that somebody can't be asked to script write properly. It was pretty shocking. Obviously, he's back. So is Ashad, the lone Cyberman character from series 12. Again, this is another character they built up really rather well that I felt that was visually very striking and played well by Patrick Kane. He's back in the role this time. And it was one of several characters that Chris Chibnall builds up over a period of episodes, clicks his fingers, and the character is no threat at all. He's gone, he's off, he's out of it. I was surprised to see this character brought back, Shah.
I was, because I actually really like Ashad. I really like him. I think it was one time that I thought, this is very different, because you've actually got a Cyberman here that's still got a human mind-ish, but is not fully done yet. That bit isn't original, because we have had that before, especially in the audios. But it's the sinisterness, if you like. Is that even a word?
No, he was sinister, because you got the impression, exactly what Charlotte was saying, that Sasha wasn't doing or wasn't able to do with the Master. Patrick Kane was able to hold back a little. You got the impression he was holding something back. There was a lot more going on, and that guy, where if he was put in a place where he could have his way with the universe, things could get really, really ugly, and it just never really happened, did it?
Yeah, I mean, Sasha Devan's Master, I'm not going to comment on it that much because you've all said a lot about it, and I don't necessarily agree with everything. Because it is, but it's more like his incarnation has got two things wrong with it. One is that I think that him and Jodie Whittaker have chemistry off screen, but not on screen. If he was with Matt Smith, I think he would be so different because it's almost I've noticed that the Doctor and the Master, especially with ones like Pertwee, and Delgado, they're similar but so different, if that makes any sense. And then I've noticed that with Ten and Sim, and I've noticed that with Capaldi and Gomez. I've not seen it with these guys, and I think that's one of the issues. The other issue is that it's almost like this whole timeless child thing has made him more into a bit of a spoilt brat that's thrown his dummy out. Do you know what I mean? He's like throwing his toys out the pram because one thing hasn't gone his way, so he's just trashed everything. That's not how the Master works. And very much like the Doctor, of course, it is the same character. So that's
again,
my little niggle with him, is that you don't.
Again, it highlights
the Master thing to do, to just completely think, oh well, we're all born out of you, so I'm just going to go and kill everything. That's just not how he works. But I think that those are my two main issues with him. But him as a Master, I really like, because he has that like glint, and I do think, oh, you're a bit weird, but that's kind of the extent of it. And he would have made an awesome Master if he was written a little better and paired with a different Doctor. Because it highlights. I like seeing he and Whittaker off screen, but I don't like them in the show together. I don't think they have that chemistry that you desperately need to have with the Doctor and the Master.
Well, as I'm about to say, again, it highlights Tribnall doesn't know Doctor Who. He doesn't. I mean, he claims he's a fan and been a fan since he was in his teens and stuff like that. But again, it shows he's either got a lack of imagination, which I think that's what it is. But Shah is right. If you look at the Master with Pertwee, they both complemented one another. If you look at the Master because if you look at the Master with David Tennant was so over the top, wasn't he? He was always gurning, he was always running around shouting. And Sim's
was a very physical Doctor.
Sim's Master was over the top as well. And then if you look at Gomez and Capaldi, they kind of matched each other, didn't they? You know, because like Capaldi, even though he had some really bad scripts, he really comes across as quite an intelligent Doctor. You know, kind of a bit old, kind of intelligent Doctor, and Gomez they kind of both match each other. But there's a
grandeur to the way that she played the character.
But this one, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing there I mean, as far as I saw, because I saw that. I think was it the ending of season 1 with the half Cyberman face and stuff like. What was that? What was that season? That was the last season. Was it the first season? The Cyberman with the half face. The Cyberman with the half face, the one that we've just seen.
Oh, the lone Cyberman.
Yeah, the lone Cyberman. Sorry, I haven't been watching it, so I don't know what it's really called. So, but yeah, so
you would have seen right at the end of season 12, then series 12. That's what you've seen.
Which is great.
So. Well, it's all a blur to me.
I think it's a reasonable.
His character is excellent. I love him.
It's reasonable that you say, you wonder what kind of writer, what kind of fan Chris Chibnall is. Is he a real fan? And I think he's obviously been a fan of the show for a long time. He's been very visible to the fan base for a long time too. He's been notorious, in fact, due to appearances on television shows when he was a teenager, writing into official magazines and fan magazines, and his way of progressing through the industry to become a professional writer. He's never drifted that far away from Doctor Who. And you would never, up until this is the guy who, when he took the reins of the show in 2018, famously stripped away virtually everything that was associated with any previous era. I think he thought he could sort of go it alone with his own creations and his own ideas, his own plans for the show. But very quickly run aground, reached for those characters and those touchstones again, and just had no take on them. Just like he's got no real take on the Doctor. So now we see him reaching to the classic show again to bring us some characters that he's hoping that will turn up for. And in the case of just a couple of people who work on Type 40, I know that that's definitely been the case. So he's bringing back, in particular, Ace, played by Sophie Aldred. There's such a a wealth of affection for both Sophie and the character of Ace, a very important, crucial character in the history of the show, right at the close of the classic era. Sophie's continued to be happy to be associated with that role consistently, right from when she was cast until the present day, ever present at conventions, countless audio productions where she's played Ace again. She's written about Ace, and she's famously one of the most approachable and generous people in the whole of Doctor Who fandom. So Chris Chibnall's brought her back for this. Russell T Davies nearly brought her back for the Sarah Jane Adventures. That couldn't happen after Liz passed away. But Chris Chibnall's brought her back. I think he knows that there's a great deal of people who will turn up just to see her. But he's also brought back Janet Fielding as Tegan Javanka. So these two from the 80s are my two favourite companions from when I was a little kid. You know, Janet Fielding played Tegan from 1980 until 84. She was the Australian air hostess. What's the expression? A mouth on legs, John Nathan Turner called her. Tegan and Janet, largely the same. And then you get Sophie Aldred as Ace, that iconic jacket, the bomber jacket with all the patches on it and the baseball bat. She only used it the once, but once was enough. She's kind of the closest they ever got to repeating the success of Leela, having with that sort of iconic look and the chemistry that she got with Sylvester. So bringing these two characters back, making certainly, it seems to me, Charlotte, that Sophie is a major part of this episode. She gets quite a lot of screen time in this 1 minute trailer, doesn't she?
Yeah, and it makes sense because she's been set up, I think, one of the best classic eras for what she did after the show, because we've had hints of her having this. Is it she runs like a charity group? Is it or something like
a charitable Earth? Yeah, a foundation or something.
And like so, I think fans of, and she stands out to me anyway, of the classic companions, that we do know quite a bit what she did after the show finished.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of story beats for him that's already existing, just to sort of go, right, I can start from this point and write a bit more. Yeah, so it makes sense. Tegan,
can't build his own characters, reach for ones that are already being built by other people, either within the classic show or parallel on extended media. I hadn't thought of it like that. You're right.
But Tegan is still a mystery to me. Like, why Tegan? That one is still scratching my head.
Why do you think Tegan then, Ian? I think I know why, but you tell me why.
I think I know why.
because she's a woman, and you think they'd bring back Jamie from
most of the Doctor Who companions are women. He's got too many to choose from. So why Tegan?
But I don't know, because he can. She doesn't look too bad now, I guess, age wise. But as I said, right, it's Doctor Who's suffering because of, again, I'd hate to say this, because of this stupid agenda that the BBC is playing. That's why ultimately the foundation of why Doctor Who doesn't work is because of this agenda that they push through all BBC shows, and Doctor Who is a huge casualty of that, and that's the reason why this season failed. Yeah.
And Ian, it's only right that we acknowledge here on the show as well that this isn't just a case of an editorial ideology and an agenda that some have. It is actually mandated for the BBC as a public broadcaster. Yeah. The BBC Equality and Diversity Charter, which came in 2016, frustrated the hell out of Stephen Moffat. It didn't cause him to leave the job. He intended on leaving a couple of years earlier than he actually did. But he has gone on record as saying that making Series 10 and trying to keep everything in line editorially with what the charter were asking even then 5 years ago was a very hard task. So heaven knows what it would be like, like now.
Yeah.
There are people out there that won't accept that this agenda, that this situation exists, but it does exist. In the BBC's case, it is literally in black and white. Anybody can read it.
Exactly.
It's available
on the website. Yeah, on the website. You can read it on the website. It's there. It exists. But before it was enforced so much as it is now, that it was doing everything right before it was fully pushed in this direction. Now, if you look at some of the old kids shows that they used to have on BBC Kids TV, there was a huge diversity stuff. You'd never have a kids show without a little kid of color or a black kid. You know, there'd always be a black kid or an Asian kid in the show, even during the 80s, right? But now they've pushed it so far that it's actually destroying TV shows like War of the Worlds they messed around with, to add all that stuff in. Doctor Who, as I said, is one of the biggest casualties of them all. And other shows that BBC One has put out based on novels or they've literally changed the history of those things they've adapted. So, this is why Doctor Who's failed, in my opinion. In my opinion, and I'll be controversial about this, the Doctor should never have become a woman, in my opinion.
Well, we have had that conversation several times.
Yeah.
I agree that the Doctor is a masculine role. But going back to this trailer, again, it's exactly as you would expect a trailer to be. There's lots of fast cuts, lots of sights and sounds. Again, some of these visuals are really cool. If it was any other show, I'd be really, really excited about it. And I do think they've got a lot of colour in it. But then again, so did Flux. And that was an utter mess. Yeah, the ideas were that abstract. And they seemed to change from episode to episode, didn't they, Charlotte? If you remember when we were talking about it on the show, we could barely keep track of, okay, so this week, time is a person. Next week, it's a planet. And it was mad, wasn't it?
And time can become Jodie Whittaker and tell us very obviously the master's going to kill you. Yeah. See, that's I actually think.
See, I can't get excited about these visuals, you see, Charlotte, without thinking back to that and thinking it's going to mean nothing. There's a planet surface here where an amorphous sort of jelly-like creature is lashing out with lasers and things like that. There's two TARDISes on the surface of this rocky planet, and it all looks beautifully done. I would imagine one is Jodie Whittaker's TARDIS, and the other will belong to another Doctor, maybe a Doctor who wears that sort of blue tweedy suit, and she's always frowning. The one that lives. Yes,
my next door neighbour.
Got that about to kick off. I think that's pretty much a certainty that even though she's not in this trailer, Charlotte, the fugitive Doctor's almost a certainty to turn up in this, isn't she?
Oh, because she has been shortchanged as an incarnation of the Doctor. She has been massively misserved, and she does need to have some sort of closure.
No, she doesn't.
But I was going to say, I think this trailer for me was worse than the Flux trailer, because at least the Flux trailer had a tiny bit of like story or a beat to it. Like you could sort of understand, okay, there's this big force in the universe called Flux, and that's what's going to be the
Flux.
Whereas, I know the name was terrible, but in this one, to me, yes, it looked brilliant. But to me, it just came across as here's a load of scenes we've mashed together, and we haven't got any proper through line or anything.
You know what's bad?
Be excited.
Yeah, you know what's bad about the trailer? They don't have a hook. They don't basically have something that you go,
that's what
oh my God. Do you know what I mean? So sorry, who said that? You?
No, but that is pretty much what you've just pointed to, isn't it? I suppose. I mean,
there's no hook.
I think we're supposed to just be attracted by flashy visuals, which again, this is a family show, isn't it, Shah? So we want it to appeal, and Russell T Davies has spoken again the last couple of weeks about 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Grab them with things that look and feel exciting, and that is true. But Ian and Charlotte, they're right, aren't they? There needs to be a hook. This is a family show that should get, okay, maybe not everybody watching around the television the way they used to, but certainly on their devices and talking about it over breakfast or on the school run. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? But it doesn't look like this has got it. I mean,
it hasn't.
It hasn't. And that was the thing. Oh, wouldn't that just be so amazing? I remember being a kid and talking about it at school, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's such a geek." I was like, "Yeah, I know." But
different time for me. We're talking about it at school.
We'll keep that.
John Pertwee. When I was at school, it was John Pertwee.
I've got something in my face and it won't leave me alone. Anyway, so no, I actually disagree with you, which is a shock, I know, because I didn't think that the Flux.
We're losing Shah, everybody. We're losing Shah.
I'm losing you. Oh yeah, she's gone. No, I do, because I thought that the Flux didn't give me anything, and I ended up actually really liking some of those episodes when I wasn't confused. I did anyway. I don't want to know what's going to happen. I don't want to know anything about this episode. I'm actually quite happy without a trailer even, because I want to be surprised. If there's one thing that I think Chibnall has done well, I've mentioned this many times if you know me at all, is that he does keep surprises. They don't always land, but he does keep surprises. And
You
that
know,
does work. I
that
don't want to know
your
anything about
point-
this episode until I see it. Sorry.
I, you know what? You have got a great point there. And given that this is finishing off an entire era rather than just a season, I can extend enough generosity to get behind that point and think, okay, fair enough. And I think that Stephen Moffat would definitely agree with that. We've got a quote from him this week. He's been on Twitter now. Stephen Moffat, he mostly uses Instagram. He thinks Twitter is quite a nasty place full of people thrashing out arguments that they don't need to have, largely with other people's children. And he's probably right. But he has got a Twitter account. It's completely unverified. There's no check mark. And so whenever he uses it, it's quite amusing because most people take him to task and assume that it's not him, but it is him. And this week on Twitter, directly after the trailer, he shared it just in a totally innocuous post. There was no picture attached. He shared the link and put out with this tweet I've got here. Hold on 1 minute. Where's this? With this tweet we have right here, and he said this. He said, "How awesome does this look? I'm off to develop incredibly wrong theories about every frame." So, and that is funny, isn't it? Because I suppose that's how we should be. Oh, what was that? Oh, was that Ashad, the lone Cyberman? And I wonder how he comes back. And maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I mean, we don't really give a shit, but that's how we should be. Stephen's not wrong to be thinking along these lines. Now, immediately he was hit with a lot of people who didn't believe that it was Stephen Moffat, and a lot of other people who said to him, kind of as I would have been tempted to, how can you stand up for this drivel? But then again, he's got to be seen to endorse this because it's kind of
a lot, though, doesn't it? It says a lot about the Moff and RT, how they send out cryptic tweets and messages.
They're doing more to promote Chibnall's material yet again, Ian, than Chibnall does. Stephen Moffat made a short video from his own garden with a weeping angel statue to promote Village of the Angels, which is part of Series 13. So he's done this before as well. Both Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat, yet again, picking up the slack where Chibnall simply can't deliver. People had a pop at Stephen Moffat, but he replied to that, "I've always supported this drivel. I've written loads of this drivel. Go drivel."
That's what I'm saying, right? In the old days,
playful and harmless, Ian.
In the old days, right, they never used to be so cryptic. They'd say what's on their mind, say, you should watch it because it's brilliant, blah blah blah. But no, you can tell that you can read between the lines. They don't think this error works at all. I'm pretty sure if I got the Moff drunk in a pub, he'd probably tell me all. He'd probably say this error is the worst error ever. Probably,
I think he would, but he's a genuine fan. He's a real fan, isn't he? So I think he's like a lot of people where they're thinking, let's just keep watching it because it is our show.
You see that? More to
the point. He's professional and he's loyal. And
he is,
I can respect that. I really can. Yeah, looking back to the trailer, we have got yet more.
The Joker's in it.
So we've got the front of the TARDIS there, as you say, Ian. We can see there that the graphics have been changed. On the sign on the police box door to just ha 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 ha. But
that's us laughing.
Again, Charlotte, we've seen this before too, haven't we? This feels like what we were talking about earlier on. Chris Chibnall reaching for something that he knows that we've seen before, we've liked it before. This can pick up some of the slack, do some of the heavy lifting. It was a cool idea back in 2008. We're 14 years on.
Yeah, it's just to add, I think the reason why I don't like this because it hasn't got so much of the story beat, and this is to add to it, is because I think Chibnall hasn't earned my trust to believe he's going to do a good story. So because he doesn't have that trust, if I see a trailer with sort of these random scenes and things like we're saying here, like, oh, look, you do remember this? Do you remember that?
Remember this.
But I'm not having a story to go with it because Chibnall's not proven he can write to me yet properly. I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt in the trailer. And that's what my position is, I think, a little bit. But even in Sasha's outfit, like in series 12, people were joking he looked like the Joker then. So
Yeah.
it's like, of
Yeah, yeah.
course,
Purple.
like this is just more sort of, it reminds you of something else. Isms, very much so.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
and
yeah.
it's
I
like,
loved TARDIS. That was the best. I remember being so young and that scene happening and just being like, oh my God, what is going on? It was the best. Oh, one of
It
the
was.
best cliffhangers ever. I'll never ever forget watching
but
that.
you know, this scene here where she's got a baseball bat, she's taken on the Dalek. Didn't Russell T establish that the Daleks has a force field? Because when they were trying to shoot at it, remember in
Yeah,
Dalek when they're trying to shoot. So obviously they didn't have a force field when the guy with the spoons was the Doctor, but this era is obviously after Russell T. So would she be able to
Well,
hit it?
Well, I think it
You
depends on the
physically can.
Daleks. I
You
mean,
physically
the
can hit
various
it.
different
It
kinds
has
of
happened
Daleks have
before.
got different kinds of tech. And
Right.
yeah, obviously, it depends on the baseball bat too. The baseball bat that she had in remembrance of the Daleks. We're talking about,
Yeah.
for the people who are listening, remember it's a podcast. For the people who are listening, we're talking about Ace hitting the Daleks with a baseball bat.
Mm.
In the original story, it was a souped-up baseball bat that was coated in
Oh,
something.
I see.
It was
Right.
extra. So a normal baseball bat would never have been able to have damaged a Dalek.
Should have been a cricket bat.
I couldn't agree more. We get shots of. You mentioned this earlier on as well. Was it you, Ian, who mentioned the fact that we got paintings again? We had a load of paintings in the Day of the Doctor, the big 50th anniversary thing. So it's all more imagery that we've seen before, and this, Sophie Aldridge looking very pensive and very interested, and I'm sure she will be. But again, I just feel we have seen it all before. John Bishop.
Oh, sorry.
Bishop
Can I ask
here.
a question?
Go on.
Do you guys think it would be really brave of Chibnall to do that? He would kill someone off in this one.
Well, that was going to be my next point.
Well, sorry,
John
mate.
Bishop,
I jumped the gun.
Stop blowing his links.
John Bishop has been on this series for around a year and a half.
Oh, really?
In my view, he's put in a decent enough job for a character that is largely him, not really there. It's very much what he makes of it. He's present in this trailer, goofing around just as before, being John Bishop under another name. This is why I always forget the character's name. But he's there on screen, and he does look as if he's been placed in mortal danger. There's a lot of chat over social media at the moment, and that one or both of the companions of either Dan, as played by John Bishop, or Yaz, played by Mandy Gill, that one of them could die in this. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the thing is, it would be really brave if they killed off Yaz. I mean, I'm sure a lot of Doctor Who fans will be cheering, but it would be really quite brave if they killed off Yaz, because if Yaz survives this, and she's obviously in love with the Doctor. Well, this is what I've been told, because I've never seen the rest of the seasons. But where is she going to go from there if once the Doctor reverts back to a man? You know, how is she going to deal with that? Do you know what I mean? So,
well, in the last episode, there was a conversation on the beach where the Doctor knocked her back in no uncertain terms.
Right, gotcha.
And I'd say probably the most interesting character beat of this entire trailer, which isn't saying much, is the moment we see where Yaz is holding a gun, pointing a gun at somebody in the TARDIS console room, which I assume is going to be, I'd say that's going to be the Master, wouldn't you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I can't see it being anybody else, unless maybe a Shad has got into the TARDIS. I don't know, because a lot of creatures seem to be able to. A lot of creatures in Jodie's era seem to be able to get into there very quickly.
Yeah,
So
I know.
anybody.
Yeah, it's stupid, isn't it? Because obviously we know that the TARDIS is protected, isn't it? So yeah, it's really weird how they get in really easy.
Are you talking about the Kabbalah man? Because I've only noticed one, unless I'm
No, the Kabbalah man.
Yeah.
The Kabbalah man is not a threat. When you have a threat towards the TARDIS actually defends itself.
No, I
So,
understand that.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking about the only thing I've seen enter the TARDIS.
The horn. What do you call those rhinos?
Oh, the rhino,
Rhinos
yeah,
appeared, didn't they? And they took
Jack,
away.
no, not
Yeah,
the
put her
Right,
in jail.
I think the angel got in. One of the angels
Yes, the
got
angel
in
got
for a
in,
minute.
Yeah, the angel got in, but I couldn't remember who else did. So thank you, because I completely forgot about the Jadoo.
And
All
also,
right,
like
yeah.
the TARDIS got a load of goop in it, so even the TARDIS, the inside started to come apart. So it's a very flimsy TARDIS. Is my
Well,
joke.
when she was flying, it was very flimsy. Yeah, the
I
worst
think
design ever inside the TARDIS.
I think we're
might add.
supposed to wonder, Ian, whether
Mm.
Yaz is pointing at the Doctor. You know, like
I hope so.
a woman spawned there. You know, she's rejected
could
her
be.
affections, and she's going to pull a gun on the Doctor. But
I don't know if,
yeah,
I don't
that
know if
would
you're being
require.
serious, but I hope that's not the case. I
Well,
hope it
she
is the
could be
Doctor.
pulling a gun on David Tennant. You know, if David
I
Tennant's in this episode, you never
really
know.
hope it's the Doctor, and I mean that because I want them to bring back this whole thing that the Doctor doesn't like weapons and wants all
Yeah,
this and fashions the companions into weapons. I want to keep that going. I love that, and I want to see a companion turn on the Doctor. We've not had that properly before. I want to see something new,
Well,
and if
Clara
this is what
did,
I have
didn't
to
she?
have to get that, I'm
Yeah, she
totally
did.
down for it. If it means that I can see that, I'd love it. I would love it so much. I would love it.
I don't
If
think
it's,
she's
if it's
turning
master, I'll
there
be really
though.
upset. If it's
Is
because that
she?
is a
Do
master.
you reckon she's regenerating in that
No.
picture?
No,
I don't
I-
think so
definitely.
either.
I
Yeah.
think once again he's copying from
Yeah.
Moffat when Capaldi wanted the
Yeah.
like the Monk trilogy, was it that he did a
Mhm.
fake regeneration? I
Yeah.
think Jodie's going to do a fake regeneration.
I think
Oh, I
you're
disagree.
absolutely right.
No, I
You
think it's wrong.
disagree?
I think her fob watch is being opened.
I know.
Well,
Oh no, that is
I don't
possible,
think
isn't
it's
it?
a regenerate. I honestly don't think it is. It's not even the same light. It's not even.
but is it the question that you got to ask yourself is right? We've had some really great regenerations, and I always go back to the Tom Baker when we fell off the scaffolding thing, whatever the thing, and he falls, and he's dying. He's like, oh, whatever. And the same thing with who else? Same thing with when I guess Peter Davison drank the poison. It's always something really dramatic before he changes to the next, the next version of himself. So I'm wondering what's going to happen with this. Is it going to be an easy time for her, or is she going to be dying that she has to change for, or is she going to get hurt?
It's possible.
It's going to be
it's possible that is the fob watch opening.
Yeah,
but I've also seen some pictures. So there's some official pictures from the BBC where it looks as if the Doctor is trapped in inside some sort of glass booth and can't get out, which looks like it's part of a much larger contraption, maybe part of whatever the Daleks' plan is, because the Daleks are in the trailer very, very briefly. It looks like they're going to some Dalek incursion on Earth. Blah 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 blah. Just next to nothing really.
Because that worked.
So
it does 100 other times you did it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I do think this is overburdened with Daleks, Cybermen, and the Master. I think it could well just give way under the weight of all that. But it looks to me like the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, is sealed inside some sort of booth, which again would be a steal from the David Tennant thing, where he will knock 4 times, all that stuff. He was shut in a booth.
It was.
I think that Chibnall will lean on that, but it could be regeneration energy. It depends who's after what. I suppose somebody else could have found the fabled fob watch, could have got, because we know that the Master gets inside the TARDIS. What is he there for? What's he looking for? Well, the Doctor has dropped that fob watch down some sort of unnamed tube within the TARDIS. It looks like she's in no rush to retrieve it. Maybe the Master tries to retrieve it. What do you think of that one, Charlotte?
Sorry, I was about to say, the Doctor is saying in the trailer that he wants to erase her from time, so maybe he's created some contraption.
The Master wants to erase the Doctor from time.
It says in the trailer. So maybe he's created some contraption in the TARDIS or something like that will
if
trap
he has,
her.
I really, really hope so, because that is a Master thing to do.
And he couldn't do that, Shah, without the fob watch, or could he? Because some of the Doctor would remain inside the fob watch. He'd have to, if he really wants to remove the Doctor completely, he has to remove all of them
generations,
and so he would need the portion of her, the masses of incarnations that would live in that fob watch. So he's going to need to get hold of that. I'm convinced that's where that's going.
Probably.
Sorry,
it could be like Superman 2, where she goes into it and everybody's affected outside and she's not. Could copy that storyline. Sorry, Shah, go ahead.
I thought it was going to be another Matrix thing. When she's in the Matrix in the last episode of series 12. I thought it could be that, and I thought I don't know if I'm gonna be a bit off on the mark. I thought when it's erasing, you know, like at the end of series 12 where she blasts the matrix with her brain or whatever it was, and it brought back and it sort of went through every incarnation.
I remember.
Kind of want to see that, and I kind of feel like that's how she goes back to Tennant, because he's trying to erase her, then there's a massive glitch, and that's where the light energy comes from, and he's in that matrix, and they go back to familiar faces because Moffat made that now canon that you can go back, and there's a little glitch in regeneration because no one quite knows where she is at this point, and then that's when we get Tennant. I know that loads of people have said it's going to be an open-ended regeneration. I kind of want to see that because I've always liked that in Classic Who when it has been the case, like Troughton, for example.
Yeah.
But I just think they need something more, even though they've packed it full of stuff at the end for us to go, oh my God, we need to see the next episode, because that's desperately what Doctor Who needs. I think that will be it.
I think Ruth is a massive part of the regeneration. Because you've got 2 doctors by the looks of it running around in this episode. You've got, and we still do not know her official placement. They've teased it, but they've not told us this is where even just a rough sort of placement. We've had nothing. So I think Ruth being present, or maybe having 2 doctors at a point when one's regenerating. And I honestly think we're going to get a faulty regeneration with Jodie.
Yeah.
We're going to get a regeneration that goes wrong in some fashion, whether that's the Master, whether that's Ruth or something else.
I hope that what the Master is trying to do is trying to erase the Doctor from all of time, and he makes a mistake, and then everything gets re-erased from the Council State Doctor straight across to the Jodie Doctor. Everything gets re-erased, even he gets re-erased, and then everything's set backwards, and then David Tennant turns up and he goes, what, and now he's a Time Lord again. Everything's set right back to the way it was. I'm hoping that's going to happen.
I would put money on David Tennant.
No one knows where Sacha Dhawan's Master is either, so that makes a really, really good point, because he's not after Missy, because we know what happened. So you honestly, I feel like we could write this. However, if Gabriel comes back, right, and completely pulls an absolute banger and does something along those lines, I will be happy.
Yes, I would.
Happy. And I'll be happy for him and
the
fans and people like us that haven't been fully present with this era. It would make everything so much better. Why not end with on an absolute high to say goodbye?
Because I got another theory, because Jodie's wearing that suit, and that he wear the same suit in Waters. Was it Waters of Mars?
Yes.
Is it Waters of Mars? I can't remember.
Yes.
So maybe everything reverses back in time and it goes right back to that point. I don't know. But that would be fun.
I have been saying this. I've said this multiple. I have said this multiple times on this show and Type 40 Live. There is no coincidence that for the bulk of this, we see lots of pictures of Jodie Whittaker in this familiar orange spacesuit that we first saw David Tennant wear back in, I think it was in series 2 we first saw him wearing it, but Matt Smith's Doctor wore it, so did Capaldi's. This is something that's been passed along through. There is no way. I am convinced that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor will regenerate into David Tennant.
What?
Probably as and not as the 10th Doctor either, as the 14th Doctor. I don't know how, I don't know why. I think that, and all of this is obviously the creative instincts of Russell T Davies. Is a very, very visual, very, very brash and very bold creative who knows how to give the British public what they want, or certainly always did. I think he knows that will get people on the edge of their seats. There is no way that any creative with any credibility at all would hope to preserve the dignity of their hero, to have him regenerate into that costume, that ridiculous costume that Jodie Whittaker has run around in for the last 4 years. He would look ridiculous. It'd be fun though. It would be very memetic. The memes would go on forever, but it would totally undermine the drama of the situation before and everything that would come after, because that's all people would talk about. The Doctor will regenerate wearing that orange spacesuit into the David Tennant Doctor because of all those associations with the character. And Ian, I think his first line will probably be What? I think it
Yeah.
will be that
Today.
iconic
Yeah.
statement that he said several times back in the past, because the people like your parents, Shah, who haven't watched this for years or loved it back then, they go, I remember that guy, and it'll give them that hit of nostalgia, and it'll herald the dawn of an anniversary year. I love the idea that we don't actually know this. This is all theory.
Also,
My instincts as a fan of the show for several decades, but part of me really likes the fact that this is the first time that, even though we've got a short list of people, it couldn't be the bloke who works at Greg's or some extra out of Hollyoaks or whatever. It couldn't literally be anybody. But the fact that we don't actually know who will be the Doctor at the end of this episode, that has never happened before. That's quite exciting. We've got Russell T Davies to thank for that.
also, I was going to say that they might do this, which I'd probably do anyway if I was directing it, is that if she did go from the Jodie Doctor to David Tennant's Doctor, I would have her head completely, like you can't see the visor.
Yes.
So it should change, and then he'll turn
helmet
around.
Comes off.
And then he comes off, and he'll go, "What?" Wouldn't he?
no,
So it'd be like that,
everyone-
wouldn't it? Yeah. So
And Ian, have a bit of Murray Gold music playing.
absolutely,
When that gets,
absolutely,
have a little bit of Time Lord Victorious or something like that playing in the background.
literally
I hope
saying
not,
he's
Charlotte.
back.
The only reason why is because I don't want him to be David, like the 10th Doctor, if you know what I mean. So
Yes.
that's the only reason I wouldn't want that, but I totally get where you're coming from.
Oh,
But
just enough that you recognise it, just enough.
Oh, I
They're
see what you
going
mean.
to go.
But
Yeah,
They're going to
Matt,
go so
did not Matt
blatantly.
visit the set? Did Matt visit? It could be Matt. You never know. Matt visited the set as well.
They're going to go. They're going to go for close association of every
Russell
sense.
T. Yeah.
All of our senses, and I think we will hear strings of old music in this. We know very little of the cast and crew of the show. All we know is that Jamie Magnus Stone has directed this final episode of the Chibnall era. We know that Sagan Akinola, it's his last shot as well as a composer. We don't know who's coming directly after or for how long. Strong rumor. I've been told by a rumor by a contact that I trust that Murray Gold is back for at least the 60th anniversary. But with all of those cues, Ian, to evoke a time past and to get us there to a point of making us remember why we love this show, it'll banish all this nonsense that Chibnall's been dribbling across the screen for the last few years. Remind us why we love this show in the first place, what Doctor Who is all about, what a real Doctor looks like, how they behave, how they sound, and catapult us into the 60th anniversary year. What do you think about all this, Charlotte?
I think Doctor Who needs to be talked about again. Doctor Who needs to be public consciousness again. And you do that, you put David Tennant at the end of this special.
Absolutely.
Because let's be fair, let's imagine that night, if this is what's going to happen, do you think Twitter's not going to explode? Do you not think YouTube is going to go ballistic with people? Just that clip, and that's my point. I think it's
Type
90
40's
minutes.
going to explode.
Yes.
It's going to go.
We've got 90 minutes to sit through, and I think what's going to happen, and I can't help but, and I'm getting
excited now.
No, I'm going to be fair. I'm going to get a bit of my own little joy if we have 90 minutes of this, and all people talk about is the last minute.
Yeah. Well, that's
because
what's going to happen.
what all people are going to talk about.
Yeah. Go on.
Can I just say two things? One, one's a question actually. Has Ncuti actually been described as the 14th Doctor?
No, not once.
No.
Excellent. Second thing, I love that we have all just got so excited. That is what I've been wanting for like 4 or 5 years now, is to just get this level of excitement for what you said, Charlotte, could be 1 minute. And it just makes it all worth it.
The icing on the cake is going to... The icing on the cake... Yes, I'm saying the icing on the cake will be that somehow, somewhere, everything's been erased from what's happened with the Chibnall era, from the Timeless Child to everything. That the Master does that, and it reverts back to what we know as the Doctor. That'll be the icing up. I don't think the BBC is going to do that though, for some reason. I don't think. But just having David Tennant back is just excited me even now, basically. So that would be awesome.
The rumor is
Sorry.
The Bad Wolf were back at the location of the Bad Wolf base scenes from series 2 of Doctor Who and series 4 of Doctor Who. They were back there filming something we don't know who with. David Tennant was in the area that week though, because he did bump into somebody in Cardiff Bay and swore them to secrecy, and like a lot of people, they went straight to Twitter to boast about it. So it seems that there could have been something recorded there at Bad Wolf Bay months before everything else. That's just a maybe. They were there doing something. So if they wanted to again evoke that time where Doctor Who was the biggest show on TV and David Tennant was the most recognizable actor in the country, that'd be a pretty bloody good way to go about it. I don't want to spoil things because we've got a bit of a buzz going at the moment. Go on.
Sorry, Dan, do you think that it's not the David Tennant Doctor that we know and it's the other one that's on the other the other, you think it's the real Doctor? You think it's the other one?
It's the 14th Doctor. David Tennant will play the 14th. David Tennant will play the 14th Doctor. That's my prediction for this.
So I think it's going to be a bit. Right. I think it's going to be a bit like the War Doctor, and he's not going to be called the 14th Doctor. Is my little prediction.
I know what they're doing.
I think
it's going to be like a War Doctor situation. He's going to have his own name, and he's going to be like a stopgap between Jodie and Shooter.
Or the Watcher, or like the Watcher character in the Tom Baker era. I think that would be viable too. But honestly, I think they'll keep it as simple as possible. I think that they're doing what Shah said about the Day of the Doctor. Moffat introduced it that the Doctor could potentially regenerate back into faces he's had before. I think he'll keep it that clean and that simple. David Tennant will be the 14th Doctor. David Tennant will also have played the 10th Doctor.
Do you think they will if that's the case, then do you think they will carry on from that point in the different universe with the adventures going straight from the different universe? Because do you remember
no, I don't think it'll be anything connected to that alternative universe whatsoever. Right. No, I
hope it's not as well, because you seem to have a bit of a brainwave. And the only reason I say that is because I go back to Spider-Man comics, where there was 2 Peter Parkers, and the one that became from and Love died. I don't know if you read this. You must have.
Yeah, I did.
And then they said, it's okay because it's the other Peter Parker. And I just feel like that is a really cheap way of getting out of something.
Yes, I read that as well. Yeah, the Clone Saga.
With Flux. Sorry, Dan, I'm totally taking this over. I feel really bad. But with Flux, they said we're going to go into the other universe. I'm so glad they didn't do that. However, we've got half the universe.
Or it could be that the Jodie Doctor is in that universe with the other Doctor, and at the ending they explain it.
Ian, I think it's possible. I think it's possible that it will be stated that we've been watching a Doctor from a multiverse since series 11. I think that's possible. They could effectively annex this entire terrible era.
I hope so.
That the very few people who've enjoyed it.
We said it first.
The very few people who've enjoyed it and who hold it dear, so it's there for them and it can't be fractured or damaged in any way. But they need to reconnect this show back to what works, not just to get back old Warhorse fans, but simply to go back to what was working, what had worked for over 50 years, and just simply admit that they got it seriously fucking wrong.
You might be onto something, because didn't Chibnall say that Joe Martin specifically didn't mention Jodie at all, but Joe Martin was not an alternate Doctor?
Yes, he did state that.
We did say that, yeah.
So,
but you having said that creatively, this was Chibnall. I've no doubt he had his ideas about where he wanted this to go. Chibnall intended on doing 5 seasons. I maintain Chris Chibnall, it wasn't even just the 5 years. He intended on making 5 seasons. Chris Chibnall allegedly was removed from that position. I've got it on several sources that I trust, that Chris Chibnall was removed from the position of showrunner. And I will state that over and over again. And I'm convinced that eventually somebody somewhere will own up to all of that. And I'm sure that although he would have had a creative idea about where he would have wanted it to go, that the final creative point would have been completely taken out of his hands, and Russell T Davies and Bad Wolf say, see what you can make of this pile of crap, in exactly the same way that the makers of the Trial of a Time Lord season had to try and make that all fit after the sad passing of Robert Holmes. It's very similar to that.
Because of that whole 5-series plan, this is why I honestly think the whole centenary idea is a consolation prize that the BBC gave Chibnall.
Yes.
Because I think at one point he was going to write the 60th. And that's another reason why I think we've got Ace, we've got Tegan, we've got more than one Doctor we can guess with Ruth. We're rumoured to have classic Doctors come back. So I think all of this is here's my cut price version of a 60th.
Oh, but there's just so much going on, Charlotte. Like,
Yes.
I don't want to, and I want to see Doctors, of course I do, but I just don't think any more can fit in this. I think it's too much already.
That's what I think, though, he's doing. I think he's just panicked and put everything he wanted to because he thought at one point he was going to get the 60th.
Right.
And I suppose, Charlotte, if it moves so quickly and there's so much going on, people will be that wowed in theory, because he does think that we're just like a load of squirrels. We'll be so wowed that we won't notice that none of it makes sense. None of it is remotely affecting in any way. And he can sort of be completely gone. He can leave the scene of the crime before we notice that there's been one committed. There's rumours that, I think he's actually back. This poor bloke, Jacob Anderson, plays Vinder. Does anybody care about Vinder? Does anybody care about Vinder? He's back in this special. This guy, fantastic actor. He's brilliant in Game of Thrones. I understand he's now in the Interview with the Vampire TV show. And I do like this guy. He speaks very well, and I think he's very talented. It's a stupid character that does basically nothing. Apparently, he's in it. Yeah, he is really nice guy, and I feel for him stuck in this role. What do you think? This is going to come to anything, Shah? Is it worth them bringing him on again?
No, absolutely not. The only thing that, and I've speculated this with a couple of people as well, is that their unborn child turns out to be the Doctor, and it better not be. So I hope that that's not something that happens. Really happy to see Carvanista there. I love it. I've got such a soft spot for that big dog. I really, really do.
It's Han Solo and Chewbacca. That's what it is. I mean, Chibnall's even ripping off Star Wars.
I just like him.
Another character we are almost certain to see. Another character almost certain to see is Dan's on-off. Not even his girlfriend, is it? This woman that he was dating for a little while. She's in flux early on, isn't she, Charlotte? And then inexplicably, she gets sort of whisked away to an alien world. She blames Dan for it and dumps him. Then in the last special, she calls him up and says, "Oh, I'm sorry for." It's all painfully written, isn't it? But it seems she's in this last special. Is Dan going to go off into the sunset with whatever her name is? I don't remember.
Diane, I think.
Diane, not nice actress, but realistically, I don't give a toss. So,
all I'll say is that sounds like a Chibnall way to make a companion go. Not like exciting at all. Not like an event. Just be like, okay, I'm going with my girlfriend now, because Ryan and Graham just basically walked off and said we're done and went. That's how they exited.
He's back though, isn't he? Graham's back.
Oh yes, he's another one on the list.
Yes, Graham is definitely.
I kind of like that. I don't mind when companions leave, because I think sometimes you have to remember that the Doctor isn't some sort of god. Yeah, it takes you to a wonderful place or whatever, but you do have your life back home still. I mean, yeah, every single one of us would say ta-ta to everyone on the planet, wouldn't they, to go and have a ride in that TARDIS? But I think sometimes it's nice. You just have to do it in the right way. And unfortunately, I love John Bishop. I really do.
Didn't Tegan leave on bad terms with the Doctor? She left on bad terms with the Doctor, didn't she, Dan?
Who did?
I wouldn't say. Well, I
wouldn't.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that.
It wasn't with the Doctor. It was the violence, wasn't it? She says it's not fun anymore.
But bad terms. It was kind of bad terms, wasn't it? She just went off, didn't she?
It was melancholy. I wouldn't call that necessarily bad terms. There was no antagonism. The way she looked at the Doctor was very much with affection and with sadness that she had to go. But yeah, she had to go. Tegan was a very.
And now she's here. Now she's here with a gun shooting.
Yeah. I know.
Doesn't like violence, but there she's with a gun.
Yeah, Tegan was a very important character to me growing up. I had a major crush on Janet Fielding for a start. But I've also really liked the character. I like the fact that she was I like the fact that she was brash and mouthy and had that dynamic with the Doctor. And earlier on, I wondered why they're bringing her back. And I simply think that Chris Chibnall thinks he can write a character like that. I think she's going to be a cartoon version of Tegan. I think she'll be very gobby. I think she'll be very unreasonable and aggressive and be a bastardization of the character that I loved when I was a kid, because I think there was a lot more nuance to Tegan than that, and I think there's more to. Well, I know that Janet hasn't acted for a very long time on television, but I do think that there was more to Janet as an actress than that, and there probably is now, and I really do fear for her for what Chibnall has put in her hands in that script, and that's the thing I'm looking forward to seeing the least. I can see that Sophie's having a lot of fun with the character of Ace. Ace is a fun character. Tegan is going to be slightly harder to get right, and Chibnall can't even get his own characters right. The chances of him hitting the right notes with Tegan are next to nothing.
I would love. I'm looking forward to seeing Ace meet the Jodie Doctor, and whether there'd be any kind of, like. Would she be going, "You're the Doctor, you're not my Doctor"? And I would like to see that conversation.
She'll be calling her Professor, and that
would be. But what I'm saying, I would like to see her reaction to.
Oh, come on, Ian! No,
and be like,
we've already had Kate kiss up to this Doctor. We've already had her be like,
Well, fear not. Fear not, guys, fear not, because this is one for the Whovians, and that's not my words. Those are the words of Whovian, Whovian Jodie Whittaker. She says it's one for the Whovians. It's a huge treat if you're a proper fan.
Oh, that's a dig.
Well, hang on. She doesn't. I thought proper fans, we weren't supposed to be. They didn't want us anymore. If you're a proper fan, it's a huge treat. It's got all the iconic things that you associate with Doctor Who. Well, problem is it's got you. So no, and it's massive. So it's massive according to Jodie Whittaker, which means with the best will in the world, as I'll take this with a pinch of salt, just hyperbole, more nonsense from easily the worst Doctor Who in the history of the show.
Do you think, Dan, do you think that Chibnall and the gang shot all this stuff and then they brought in Russell T, and Russell T said, okay, well, it doesn't work, but if we do this, this, and this, and if we shoot extra bits here and there, we can make it be this, and this, leading up to our one. Do you reckon he shot a little bit extra? Do you reckon they came?
I think it's possible they've shot. Well, they would have shot the end scene. They would have shot end scenes anyway, because that's always happened.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that he's taken away more than he's filmed.
Yeah.
If you get my meaning, I think he's probably salvaged things. Extended effect sequences. I think there will be flashbacks in this, because there has to be, because without them, there's too many past characters and past plot strands for there not to be. And if you don't include flashbacks, the mainstream audience is going to be lost enough as it is. So there's going to be flashbacks in this as well. I think Russell and Bad Wolf will have been tasked to making this thing watchable, giving it some sort of shape, and that could have been filming extra material. It could have been just a really a ground up re-edited thing. We'll probably never know. Bear in mind that I know Chris Eccleston has spoken a lot in the last couple of years about what went on the show all those years ago. Russell still doesn't talk about his relationship with Chris Eccleston. He still keeps his counsel, doesn't say a word. Even he keeps his dignity, and he's very, very loyal. And I think, I have it on good authority that Russell T Davies. I have it on really good authority that Russell T Davies hates what Chris Chibnall's done to the show. I can't tell you how I know that.
Well, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? It's obvious because you look at the tweets and that the Moff and RT's putting out. It's obvious that they're being cryptic. If they were really fans of this show, they wouldn't be cryptic at all. They'd be saying exactly what's on their mind. It's like they can't say what's on their mind. That's why they're putting out these tweets.
This much effort. Do you know what I'm trying to say? That you wouldn't put. They're putting so much groundwork in for a show that obviously we don't know that much about yet. Or sorry, a series we don't know that much about yet. And I just don't think you do that if it wasn't as dire as it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's the fact that in her final sort of series, because Moffat, like we said, did a lot of promotion almost for Flux. And Russell, since he's been announced, he's been very complimentary. He's bigged Jodie up a lot. The fact that you've got two ex-showrunners having to tell the audience this era's good, I think that speaks volumes. That speaks absolute volumes of the state that the show is probably in, behind the scenes that we'll never see, and conversations we'll probably never know about that have happened between ex-showrunners and ex-Doctor Who staff members. Because at the end of the day, this is their legacy. This is the show that for a lot of them made them a big name. So if they're seeing it get damaged, of course they're going to want to come back and help it and to sort of give it a new life and bring it back.
Their audience.
Yeah.
That they're losing. Yeah, you're right.
Well, they lose a lot of money on the what do you call it, the what is it, what is it, the you know, when they have those big convention fronts. So if this fails, if Doctor Who dies, then people will be without money in the convention front, wouldn't they? So
This is kind of Doctor Who's.
I don't know how much I've just paid out to go to the college.
Really?
This is kind of Doctor Who's last chance, which I say tentatively because it's never. I don't suppose it's ever truly a last chance for any intellectual property now. But in the sense of now, without it going away for a really long time, this is Doctor Who's last chance in the age of television as we know it. If they get this wrong, then it will vanish within 2 or 3 years. I've still got a lot of faith in Russell T Davies and Bad Wolf, come to think of it. And obviously that's a story that we'll have to talk about another time. But yeah, we've got a couple more things to get into. But before we wrap the show up, I'm going to shoot us off into the multiverse, full of great cult conversations concerning all those other fabulous franchises in genre entertainment. It's all happening over at the Fandom Podcast Network. And here's our mate Kevin with a few words about all of that. Then you can meet Shah, Charlotte, Ian and myself back here in a couple of minutes for more of our thoughts about what's to come, about the power of the Doctor.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Yes, we've teased and we've tantalized you there, and we can even clothe you too. There's merch to match all of those shows, including Type 40. If you head over to tpublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network, and there you'll find a store full of all the team colours for all of the podcasts, on everything from T-shirts to phone cases, if you still use a phone case, and those enormous tapestries that you can drape across your room. Treat yourself, treat your other selves, and it all goes to support the Fandom Podcast Network into the bargain, so everybody wins. Yeah, we're back here speculating about what's to come in that very last Chris Chibnall showrun, Jodie Whittaker starring Doctor Who special, The Power of the Doctor. That's coming in less than a fortnight as of recording. There's so many rumours about what could be in it, who could be in it. doctors and companions. It's even breaking into the mainstream press. They're running a story about Bonnie Langford returning as Mel, which, people ask me about that. Is it possible? I think anything's possible with something this Loctite. And I agree with you, Shah. I don't really think it matters. I'm not excited because I think it's going to be awful. And and frankly, I think the less, in all seriousness though, the less that's in this, kind of the better, if it's to hold any sort of shape. But I know that as Doctor Who fans, we are kind of obsessed with the past and seeing old faces again. It's always lovely. But there is one thing we're obsessed with more, I think, Charlotte, and I'm afraid that's the ratings, Chris. Yes, the ratings. What are they going to be like for this special? Because this is a special. It's a feature-length special. It's a huge deal, or should be. And of course it does. It is the changing of the guard. An old Doctor is leaving, and that usually means that we get a boost of interest, doesn't it, Charlotte? An injection of ratings. The simple question is, though, do you think it's going to work this time? Because most people think she's already gone.
I think because it's actually, people now know this is the regeneration episode. I think that's purely going to put figures on. I don't think it's going to be as much as previous eras when we've had this sort of episode air, because I think so many fans have just been disappointed that they're just going to skip this and watch the 60th when it comes around. So there will be an uptake, but I don't think it's going to be like 4 million up or anything like that. I don't think
David Tennant's
like
one.
that. Yeah.
I mean, this is how bad it got. UK overnight figures for Legend of the Sea Devils were 2.2 million. And the actual figure of people who watched it live on the night is rumoured to be as low as 1.6 million. Whichever way you look at these figures, they are the worst ever in the entire 59-year history of Doctor Who. And US figures are down to a measly 209,000 viewers for a new show there after a high in the Peter Capaldi era. It was considerably more. It was like 6 or 7 times more than that. This is absolutely awful, and Chris Chibnall has every right to he's not said much about any of it, as he's kept very, very tight-lipped, but the entire lay of the land with the ratings, it's just gone from bad to worse to even worse, to the point where, we know, again, our sources tell us in no uncertain terms, the BBC have been pulling their hair out over this. They can't figure out where it's gone wrong. But so it's 2.2 million was the overnight, Charlotte, there for this one. We're going to do a bit of... We're going to play a bit of the old play your cards right here. So is it going to go higher or lower? What do you think? What do you think Brucey would have to say about this on play your cards right there? Higher or lower than 2.2 million?
Higher.
Yeah.
Like I said, not a major one. Not a major one.
No, I don't think so. Ian, what do you think? Do you think more people will turn out to watch this?
I reckon so. I reckon it's going to be like just hitting 4 million. I reckon with this one, because I think that if news is out now, even my normie sister knows that the Doctor's going to be changing soon.
Oh, okay.
So I reckon it's going to hit. If they're lucky, they'll get 4 million. I reckon.
So that's a big chunk to double the audience of the last show. That's a big chunk, because even though obviously viewing figures, they do go up as easily as they go down, but to an increase like that, it seems exponentially. It seems very, very optimistic. What do you think, Shah? Higher or lower?
Yeah, I think it will go up too. I think it will go up even more than double, purely because people want to see who's going to be at the end in the last shot. So I think it will go up to maybe 4.5 at a big stretch. But I do think it will go up. Everyone's going to want to see what happens with this regeneration, because it's going to be like no other regeneration we've had before.
That is true. I'm not going to be churlish about this. I think they should. I think it will go up, but I don't really see it going any further than 3 million. I think that there are too many people out there that have completely tuned out and aren't invested in the character at all. And I think that the nature of modern television means that people don't want to subject themselves to a single minute of that woman in that character. She has completely destroyed the show and the appeal of the character. They just want to sit it out until she's gone. And I think they know that they can probably largely they'll see it. The regeneration will probably be on the news, for example, or it'll certainly be clipped and it will be on YouTube or whatever else.
It'll be on
I think
BBC.
I think the YouTube clip will probably be on
millions.
Oh, millions, yeah, definitely for the regeneration.
More than the actual show itself.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I won't be surprised to see that at 4 million.
You know,
just that clip.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, Ian, sounds like a facetious comment, but I'd say you're probably right.
Yeah, it probably will. Yeah, it probably will. And also the BBC will be splashing it all over the news. Jodie, the first woman doctor, has changed from this to this or whatever. And it'll be on BBC News. It'll definitely be on BBC News. But it's going to be interesting. You know, as I said, I'm not forced, but basically forced to watch this last one. So I'll watch it with interest. I've got someone at the BBC. You know, she wants to know my view. Won't be straight after because I'll be on Type 40 talking about it straight after. But she wants to know my view as soon as possible. And I'll tell her if it's bad or good. Yeah.
So that's the power of the Doctor. It premieres on BBC One and BBC America and on the iPlayer on Sunday, the 23rd of October 2022. Exact time yet to be confirmed. So that's when that's coming. Full 90 minutes worth of Jodie Whittaker, but at least it's the final one. If you are a completist, you could be pleased to know that it's due to be released on home media. So there's a DVD release and a Blu-ray release, as well as a Steelbook individual release with a box set to come later on too, with everything connected. So that's the Legend of the Sea Devils and Eve of the Daleks. They've grouped them together as the specials, the Series 13 specials. So if you don't mind something extra to dust, then that's coming your way. I think it's on November the 7th that's coming out there too. I think, I draw the line. I draw the line there.
Draw the line right there. Yeah. It's funny how Jodie's hair hasn't grown. You know, with Peter Capaldi, he had short hair, and then as the show went on, his hair kind of got a bit longer and stuff. He looked better with longer hair, in my opinion. But Jodie's hair hasn't grown at all, has it? It's always been that length throughout the whole of her run.
And she's never really changed her clothes either. Ian. I think she's changed the T-shirt now and again.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But
boring. How boring.
Yeah, well, it just goes to prove she's in the other universe. Yes! Yes! She's in the other universe. That's what it proves.
I mean, again, not to go on too much of a tangent, I thought that the times where she looked more interesting was when she was in Legend of the Sea Devils wearing that sort of tunic, in the Villa of the Haunting of Villa Diodati. Was that what it was called back in Series 12, Charlotte? Where she was wearing some shirt.
Is it Villa Darty? I think.
Yeah. The rabbi from another planet, he calls it the Villa of Dildo Diodati. I think that's
he would.
Almost certainly wrong, but it makes me giggle too. Hello, Rabbi, if you're out there. So let us know what you think of all of that. How excited are you for this special or not? So we're all waiting a little to see what the ratings are going to do, but also to see how it's going to be received. You know, because there's going to be a lot of content in there, a lot of faces, a lot of lore, whether it's the new lore, the old lore, or both, and whether we'll come out of it smiling and running headfirst into the 60th anniversary, or dreading, can't believe what they've done, another rug pull, and sort of having wished that they'd just put the thing to bed. I have faith in this. I certainly have faith in Russell T Davies, and even more so in Bad Wolf. I think it's going to be, at the very least, compelling. It will get people talking for the right reasons, and could well put Doctor Who right back where it should be with the British public, and as the jewel of the crown of the BBC. Not that they deserve it. Okay, I think that's wrapped all of that up, because that is the old girl that I can hear starting up and calling time on this edition of Type 40. I'll be back with another one soon enough. Look out for that wherever you found this. It could have been on the dedicated home feed for Type 40, type40.podbean.com. That's where you can find not just every episode of Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, but audio editions of our live streamed magazine show, Type 40 Live, that we put out on YouTube. That's completely raw. Anything can happen, sort of. So you can hear the audio tracks of that there at type40.podbean.com too. You can also catch us on all the major podcatchers. We're absolutely everywhere. So I'm talking Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podbay, all those places. I lose track of them. That we're on so many of them. You can get us in your ears, whichever one that you call your podcast home. You can let us know what you think of it all, of course, here on YouTube in the comments section, or get in touch with us through our social media. That's on Instagram and Twitter at Type40 Doctor Who. Come and reach out to us there. Leave us your comments, leave us your thoughts, leave us your hopes and fears for this final special, or indeed your reviews. We're still over on the Fandom Podcast Network's fantastic master feed. Of course we are, with all those other shows dropping on the daily, never mind the weekly. They really spoil you over there at the Fandom Podcast Network. So please consider a trip sideways in time into that multiverse. You can get in touch with us via email, type40doctorwho@gmail.com, or if you're feeling really brave, jump in headfirst with the Type 40 Facebook group. There's regenerations upon regenerations worth of Doctor Who fans there talking about classic Doctor Who, celebrating new Doctor Who, and looking forward to what's to come in all new Doctor Who from that anniversary year, stretching forward over at Bad Wolf Studios there, led by Ncuti Gatwa. Who knows where that's going to go? Lots of speculation pretty much on the daily there in the Type 40 Facebook group. Sure, you're new to the show, so people out there who won't know where to find you, they might want to hear and see more of you. So have you got social medias? Do you Insta? Do you tweet? Do you do any of those things? Where can people hear and see more of you?
I do it all. So I am on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All Geek Rambles. There's no derivation of that at all. Geek Rambles. You'll find me on those 3 platforms. If you want some geeky rambleness, then that's me.
Geeky rambleness.
Mostly about Doctor Who, a little bit of Marvel, a little bit of Star Wars, but mostly Doctor Who.
Irresistible. And how about you, Charlotte? Where can people hear and see more of you?
So you can see and hear me on Type 40 podcasts like this one with everybody, and on Type 40 Live when I try and get a word in edgeways from JT.
How are you getting on after 70 odd shows?
I'm trying still. I'm trying.
You're getting there. We believe in you.
We're getting there. And Ian, of course, the Mega Geek. You're over on Twitter, aren't you? But I mentioned earlier on you've got a film on Netflix at the moment and other streaming services internationally. What's the name of the film? Where can people find it? What's the general pitch? Tempt them in.
It's called Bad Day. It's a cop movie. Basically, it's kind of like homage to all those cop movies of the 80s and the 70s. Basically, it stars Claire Goose, Donna Eyre, and those are the stars of the movie. It's
Keith
a low-budget movie. Keith Isles, Keith from Home. What is it? Home Media. What's this thing called? That's it. Home Media Minefield. I totally forgot. Sorry, mate.
Unbelievable.
But I'm on Instagram at Ian David Diaz. No, Twitter at Ian. I'm losing it. At Ian David Diaz, Twitter, and the Rebecca Gold channel, which is my channel on YouTube, which is my web series, award-winning web series. Got a couple of movies on there too, so that's where I am. If you want to,
awesome stuff.
Contact with me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you can get in touch with me through Instagram and Twitter. I'm there as the Spacebook, where I'm wheezing and groaning. I'm ranting and raving about all things geeky inside and outside of the TARDIS in movies, TV, comic books, and whatever else catches my eye, my imagination, or both. And I even talk about the real world and family stuff and all that kind of thing. Wholesome stuff. Now and again, I do have a real life. As strange as it may seem to believe, you can connect with me. I don't believe it. Find out some more of that.
He's lying.
Over on Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram needs sorting out. Having said that, yes, so we're all hyped hyped with a small H. Yeah, even if we're just hyped for the last scene, we're
Yes,
hyped
yes.
for the
I'm
power
hyped.
of the Doctor. But yeah, that's it for now. We always have the time if
That's
you
right
have
now.
the space here at Type 40. But that's it for this time. Yeah, we'll catch up with you soon. On the other side of it all, take care. Speak soon. Bye-bye.